Welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to Whissel Weekends here on AM 1170. The Answer. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with Whissel Realty Group. Joined as always by Mr. Jason Hall, the self-proclaimed Chargers homer himself with Team Home Loans.
You love teasing me on that.
I love you, man. I just love you. So the guest I'd like to introduce right now, Mr. Jeff Mudd, Best Rate Repair and Termite Company. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, man.
You feel good? You got to dodge some of that talk in the first segment there?
It did. I was
You're
didn't
like,
want to take a stand.
Don't call on me. All right, but now I'm calling on you.
Well, one of the things that you were talking about being a business owner and some of the people that have come here earlier,
Yeah.
I think it's work ethics, you know? And I'd love to see a little bit more of that work ethic out of some of our young adults right now.
Oh,
It's hard to find.
That's a great point, right? Like, you know, you come from another country, you've worked hard, you appreciate our country, and then our kids and, you know, the next generations, they just kind of take, you know, this country for granted and take jobs for granted. They think just money grows on trees, and, you know, it is a different work ethic. Good point, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see the change as generations. You go back a couple generations, and the kids now are a little more entitled.
Yeah, and technology's made it easier as well.
Yeah.
Now, Kyle, you like teasing me being an old guy. You got 3 old guys on the other side of the table here from you, so.
I don't know. I still feel like you're older.
Well, older than these two? Is that what you're saying?
I still feel
I
like
I might be, but I probably look like it, right? So.
I think I beat you all.
All right, Jeff. So let's talk about your company. What is it you guys do? How long you been doing this? And let's get into that.
Well, basically, I've been in the home improvement industry, out of high school, and mostly it's been around working with termite companies and some property management companies. So I've done a lot of work on houses here in San Diego over the last 30-something years. Company's 16 years old, and we've been doing work for homeowners, real estate agents, and property managers the whole time.
Nice.
So
San Diego-based company right here in San Diego.
That's usually where most San Diego-based companies are.
But here's I know a lot of people know, what the heck are termites, right? Like, we all hear about termites. I know it can be an issue on real estate transactions for Kyle and I. You mentioned something during the break that, the weather actually impacts the termites. But people are like, and I know you have sellers go, I've lived here. There's not that much damage. What do you mean I got to spend $4 or $5 grand or whatever the number might be? So bring us up to date on what termites are and the damage they cause to homes here in Southern California.
There's 2 basic termites here in San Diego. Drywood termites, everybody sees they call them the circus tents or the tarps over the house for a couple nights. And subterraneans, they live in the ground. Those are the ones a little harder to find, but they do more damage. The real estate market, when you sell your house, everybody knows you have to have a termite inspection or a WDO report, and that's what my company does. We go out and do that inspection and give the homeowner or the real estate agent some options on what to do as far as taking care of those termites and the damage.
And sometimes we love you guys, and sometimes we hate you guys. Every time you guys go out to a house, we're just like, all right, please don't let there be lunch. Please don't let it be bad. And then you're like, oh, crap. But then there's times it's like, oh, it's perfectly clear.
Because it sometimes blows up a deal or it gets a seller. It makes it tough for you as an agent telling the seller that, hey, there's X amount of damage, and this has to come out of your side when the person's already counting the purchase price and they've already counted where they're going to spend their money. Because typically a termite report, Kyle, doesn't happen until after you're in escrow. Somebody's already agreed on a price typically.
It depends. This is actually a really interesting topic because the majority of agents do not get a termite inspection done until they're in escrow.
Right.
Which is crazy to me. I mean,
because you don't know what you have, right?
It's not required. So some loan types,
like
a VA loan, it is 100% required to be clear of termites upon close of escrow. No other loan requires it that I'm aware of.
Right.
So it is an option.
Unless it's some of those credit unions like you've dealt with.
Yeah, there may be some funky ones. But yeah, if it's not a VA loan, 90% of the time it's not required. So some agents choose to never get one done because if you have had one done, you have to disclose it. But if you don't do one up front and a buyer writes an offer and says, hey, I want a termite clearance on this property, or more specifically pest clearance, because it's not just termite, it's pest clearance. If you haven't had one done and your seller says, yeah, I'll give the buyer a clearance, well, you get that inspection done and it comes back and it's $10,000. As a seller, you're saying, well, what the heck? Like, why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Like, I'm screwed. So at Whissel Realty Group, we choose to do the inspection up front.
Right.
Every listing we get before it ever hits the market, I already have an inspection completed, because that way I can put that out there to buyers up front. They know what they're getting into. There's no mystery for them. And when they do write an offer on the property, if the buyer writes in there that they want that clearance, when I present that offer to the seller, I can tell the seller, hey, on your particular property, I presented one last night, it's going to cost you $2,700 to obtain that clearance. So while the offer is $560, in addition to the $560, they're looking for you to pay this $2,700 bill to get the clearance. Where if I didn't have that inspection done up front, if the seller agrees, they're signing a blank check. They really have no idea how much it's going to cost them to get that clearance. So, if you're a realtor and you're listening to the show, you need to start doing those inspections up front. Do not let your seller sign blank checks. You're setting yourself up for a disaster. And if you're a seller, make sure your realtor is getting an inspection done up front for you. And don't ever agree to termite repairs until you know how much they're going to cost you. I mean, I have a property I'm flipping right now. The whole deck's got to get rebuilt, $5,000. And I have another property that just came back completely clear with nothing, with $0. So, I mean, and I've seen over 10 grand. I've seen 20 grand on a property before.
What's the most you've seen, Jeff, since you do these daily?
On a real estate transaction, it's probably been about 60 grand, but
Wow.
that's one that I actually seen go through. I've seen them higher, but usually they find a way to get around it. Larger down, don't need the clearance, something like that.
Yeah. And it's usually decks seem to be the most expensive thing that come up.
Yeah, and San Diego is a great area for decks. We got a lot of canyons, great views. People want decks to go out and see those.
And so talk about how the weather in San Diego kind of affects things, because I know it's different in different parts of the country where it's very dry. There tends to be a lot less termites. Here in San Diego, we're on the coast. There's moisture in the air. We have this little thing called a marine layer all the time. So talk about how that affects things living in San Diego.
So with a few decades that I've been doing this, it's been the normal to say subterranean swarm in the spring when we get our first little rain, and then a hot spell, maybe a secondary drywood swarming around that time. And then fall, September, October, drywoods swarm pretty heavy. But if you remember back in January this year, we had like a June gloom. I had drywood termites swarming.
Wow.
In January. And we pretty much have seen drywood swarm every month this year in one area of the county or the other. I've never seen that before.
Interesting.
It really is. I mean, I don't know. Global warming.
It's been a weird weather year.
It
That's
really,
for sure.
it really has. But
Yeah. Again, you're listening to Whissel Weekends here on AM 1170. The Answer. We're talking with Jeff Mudd with Best Rate Repair and Termite Company. So this is something I've always kind of assumed. You tell me if this is accurate or not. But if you get a clearance on your house today, on average, how long before you've got termites again?
it depends on the type of house. So you got a stucco house that's really maintained, nowhere for the termites to get back into it. Yeah, it's probably going to take a few years for them to find an area.
Yeah.
But you tent the thing in June and September, they're swarming and come in the attic, and you got wood eaves and wood siding. They're back in the same year.
So that's what's always so crazy to me is like, why do we force people to get these clearances knowing that you're going to have them back within a few years? I mean, even best case scenario, they're going to be back. Like, it's so crazy.
I guess they're not as deep in, right? Because don't these things like set in the wood and then deep through them? I mean,
Jason's a really good point. The homeowners, I have them ask me this question a lot. Why do it? It's because if they do get back in, whether it's 6 months or 2 years later, they're starting over. They're starting over with just 2 or 3 termites in one specific area, and you've got a better shot at identifying and controlling them, as opposed to you've got
Just letting them go
hundreds
inside.
of them sitting in
Right.
the attic just reproducing and swarming in the attic over and over.
yeah, and like a $60,000 one, they've probably been there for years.
Yeah, they've been there for years, and a lot of what we do is fungus damage repairs also. So it's different than termites, but shows up on the same report. Same thing really needs to be done to take care of it. You're removing and replacing some wood, whether it's a rafter tail or a whole deck.
Is there anything people can do to minimize termites and or termite damage?
Well, I always start off telling people, get an annual inspection. Whether it's you're calling me or another company, you can get an annual inspection for free, and that'll help minimize the effect of them if you handle it. But there's other little things you can do. Maintenance is really a good thing. Have you caulked all the seams? Have you painted all the wood? Stop the dry rot and the moisture from getting in. If you look at your window screens, the size of the mesh, termites can't get through that. So if you put that mesh up in your attic vents, stop them from getting in, and the vents to the sub area, they can't get in.
That's smart stuff. I like that. Well, you can always get any of our guests on Kyle's text line at 619-663-SELL, 619-663-7355. But if they want to contact you directly, Jeff, you got a number or something that I know you got a great staff. I was talking earlier today.
Yeah, we have a couple numbers. 619-229-0116 is the main office line. We've got a bunch of great gals sitting there ready to give you free inspection and appointments lined up for you.
I love it. So, yeah, if you guys are concerned you might have termites or you're getting ready to put your home on the market, you want to get a free, said free.
Yeah, free,
right? Said
free is good.
Right? Jeff said free?
We said free.
Okay. If you guys want to get a free inspection done, give Jeff a call, 619-229-0116, and he will make that happen for you guys. And, you know, I think the biggest thing is whether you're selling or not, where we see the issue come in with termites is not that they're there, but it's when they really cause a lot of damage to the structure, like, again, decks and attics, where they actually compromise the integrity or the structure of a home or of a deck. Then instead of just replacing a piece of wood, you're replacing, you know, support beams and support posts and everything like that. That's where it starts to get really pricey.
Yeah, a few $100s of maintenance each year is a lot better than thousands of dollars worth of repairs or fumigations down the line.
I love it. So again, if you want to get connected, Jeff Mudd, Best Rate Repair and Termite Company, 619-229-0116. When we get back, we're going to turn our attention to Mr. David Eifrid, Glenview Glass and Screen. And I actually need some screen work done, so I'm excited to pick your brain a little bit. You're listening to Whissel Weekends, AM 1170, The Answer.